life gets ill. Homie, we got bills. More than one kid, a boss we could kill. Aches and pains all hurt, we take pills. Then it's gotta
Hey everybody, my name is Brian Bernasconi, and we are launching the first ever episode of PodCats LG. PodCats LG, which is a podcast and videocast about Los Gatos, like Los Gatos only. Now, of course, there's going to be some bleed over into other topics and communities and stuff, but we're focused on Los Gatos because we live here, we care about the community, and we all want to do whatever we can to make this community as great as it possibly can be. I mean, we have a very high bar that we're starting from. It's already a fantastic community, but there's things to talk about. So with me, my co-host is Catherine Summers, who is currently the executive director at the Chamber of Commerce. You want to look into the camera and say hi over there?
Sure.
Perfect. And I got to say, we're all new to this, so we're going to just do our best to stay on track. And today, we are talking about marijuana and whether or not pot should be sold here in the town of Los Gatos. So this episode is called PodCast.
Clever.
So PodCats, the podcast talking the PodCast. And so we have several guests here today. Today we're going to have people hopefully representing kind of all aspects of this conversation. Today we've got, to my right is Lisa Harris. And Lisa, tell me into the microphone what your title is or what your role is here.
I'm a member of a concerned citizen of the town of Los Gatos and with our community.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that our town is making the right decision on the future of our youth.
Right. And the right decision is whether or not marijuana should be sold here in Los Gatos, whether we should open a dispensary or multiple dispensaries here in the town of Los Gatos. I said multiple, but I know one, maybe two, maybe whatever. Over here we've got Joanne Rogers, who I've known for a long, long time. And Joanne, would you please tell us who you are?
Well, I'm a citizen of Los Gatos and have been for over 45 years. And I started CASA way back in the 80s.
CASA is?
Community Against Substance Abuse.
Yep.
And at the time, there were lots of drug using on campus, just off of campus. And we set up a whole committee with all town members of the town council, the mayor, the police chief, the superintendent of schools, and the principal and vice principal, and a bunch of citizens, and came up with a great mission statement for it. And so we have been a community against substance abuse for over 35 years.
What year did you guys start?
1984. 1984,
mm-hmm. Right.
You were in school here.
I was a sophomore at Los Gatos High School.
I remember you.
Yes, indeed. It's a lot of years ago, but I mean, we don't have to go into that, but this is kind of how we met, really, right? Because of the formation of CASA.
Yes.
Okay, and I was a child then. I mean, really.
And Joanne, your own daughter was a freshman. Then.
My own daughter was a freshman. You were a sophomore, I believe.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And the reason one motivation that I had was because my sister died from drugs, and she started with marijuana. She started with smoking marijuana and went on to progression of other drugs. And so, my kids supported me, and my husband supported me on this. And it was a very important subject for me, very emotional, and it was tragic.
Yeah.
So we did everything we could to help her, but she got started on it and was in with the crowds of marijuana smokers, and that was that.
Yeah. I'm really sorry.
So
I didn't know that.
What was it, Joanne, when you first heard that the council or the town was even considering having dispensaries? Was it like a feeling inside that you just thought, I'm going to
dispensaries, yeah.
fight this?
So you see, CASA was always a prevention. We were always there on the prevention side. And we weren't into intervention or treatment or anything like that. We wanted to do everything we could to prevent drug use. So getting marijuana dispensaries in town was definitely not a prevention measure. Not having them is a prevention measure. But having them and allowing them is just asking for trouble, and it's not a benign decision. There's going to be consequences, I'm sure of that. So that's why I was concerned about it and stepping out and have full support of my family on this, and I really appreciate that, and a lot of citizens of Los Gatos. So,
and Lisa, what was your motivation to just get involved with this issue, and and how do you really feel about it actually?
Well, I have kind of a different story than Joanne does. So I always like to say, for me, this is full disclosure. I have a family member who suffers from a chronic disease, and marijuana has truly been a godsend. Medical marijuana has helped them when they were in flares and dealing with pain and helping with the nausea. So I really see the benefits of it medicinally. I personally have shopped at some of the major dispensaries in town. I've shopped at Airfield and I've shopped at Caliva. So I can say that I have been into these dispensaries. I have purchased it for our family member who is over 21, just to clarify. So I am familiar with the industry as a consumer. Personally, for me, I've never consumed it. That's just a personal choice that I have. I have a lot of addiction and substance abuse in my family history. So for me, I think I'm going to stay away from that recreationally, at least.
That's a good decision. Let me just say, I think it's a good decision. I just want to say we also have Chris Lane here, who is the Chief Marketing Officer from Airfield Dispensary in San Jose. So he's going to be joining us later, so stick around to be able to hear Chris's perspective, and he's got some a bit of a presentation about why he wants to see a marijuana dispensary potentially opened in Los Gatos. And there's a whole slew of reasons that we might look to for why it should be open and why it shouldn't be open. I got more questions, but give me one more second. And right this minute, and I think we can't do this necessarily right here, but is it possible at all to roll the video that we had before? Is that set up at all? I'm guessing the answer is no. Is the voice of God there that I can get an answer? Is it coming right now? Oh, okay. Let me know when it's ready, because I wanted to see that tape as well. But we're so late here, maybe it just doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm curious, Lisa. You came here with Joanne.
Yes.
So I just went under the assumption that you guys were sort of on the same page. But are you involved with CASA?
No, I'm not involved with CASA because I just learned about it from Joanne. So I am, but I'm still against having dispensaries in the town of Los Gatos. I'm fully in support of dispensaries in the right geographical area. I just feel like our town, which is 11 square miles, simply cannot accommodate businesses that do such large volume. For other reasons too, which of course we'll talk about later on.
Do they do more volume than like Safeway?
Well, it's interesting. I was reading an article, Forbes magazine, May 2020. They interviewed Mark Matulich, who's the founder and CEO of Airfield, and he said that they have 1,500, so that's 1,500 consumers daily.
At Airfield?
At Airfield. They only have one location. It's in San Jose off Coleman Avenue.
And those are in-person visits?
These are in-person. Very clear that these are in-person consumers daily.
I'm getting the head shake from Chris over there in the wings.
But I also read some other articles when Mark Matulich was being interviewed in different sources, and he said the same numbers consistently. He said 350 to 450 of those 1,500 consumers are first-time customers. So
every day they're getting 450 new customers?
Every day.
Damn!
And Mark has been saying this in several of his interviews with several different companies. So I have to believe that Mark is telling the truth.
I don't know Mark. I don't know if he's telling the truth.
I've never met the man, but he has said that several times. So when I saw 1,500 consumers daily, my thought went to, holy cow, 1,500 cars coming and going daily. And we know what North 40 looks like.
Yeah.
Imagine that. How is that going to work in a town that's 11 square miles?
Do we know how many customers go through something like Safeway in a day? Anybody have
no
that
idea.
data?
Don't know.
We don't know
That's a good
so we don't know how to
But
relate
it's a good
that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think that 1,500 may be a lot, but if there's 3,000 that go through Safeway, I don't even notice them.
But here's the thing to consider, though. Safeway is going to be local residents who already live here or already driving around on our roads. Whereas if we bring in a dispensary, it's going to attract business from all over the area, from Campbell, Cupertino, other parts of San Jose. It's going to attract people from everywhere.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold for a second. Question?
Well, I was just going to say, you don't think that over time it would spread out. So if there are, again, I'm not really in favor of having a whole lot of pot shops in town per se, but I think so many people are going to Airfield right now because they're not spread out airfield is just one example, but because they're not dispersed throughout,
So they're concentrated into
Right.
the one that's actually available.
Yes.
And I think airfields, supposedly, I haven't been there, I'm sorry to say, but I think it's a nice place, right? Like it's a clean,
It is.
well-lit
Yeah.
place that people like to go to. They feel comfortable there.
Yeah.
And so from what I understand from Chris, and we'll hear from him in a minute, but I think it's also that people from Los Gatos go there because they're comfortable there, because it's clean and well lighted, and they present themselves well.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know, and I don't know if we'll ever know that, if people really will come to Los Gatos from Campbell and San Jose to buy their weed.
Over the mountain.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll come from Santa Cruz? Don't
They
they have
might.
dispensaries on every
They
corner
do.
in Santa Cruz?
They probably do.
I would think that they must have like some of the best, right? I mean, they're the OG of like dispensaries. Anyway, Joanne, I want to hear from you too.
Okay, well, I have a problem because we have asked, in regards to what Lisa just said, for an environmental impact study on this, or a CEQA review, and I don't see that forthcoming. And we've got all of this traffic potential. We've also got crime that's going to be attracted here. We see the smash and grab that goes on all over the place. We have cash business going on with these companies. And these dispensaries, and they can't use the bank because federally they are not allowed to use the bank and put that money into the bank. My feeling is that we'll never get rid of the black market, illegal marijuana. It'll always be there. And who's going to monitor this? Who's going to monitor the amount of money that comes into a dispensary for our town? Because basically why they want this is for revenue.
I see.
There's no other good reason why they would want this. It would be ruining our reputation as a town, our image as a town. We could be the town that says, no, you know what? We've decided not to have marijuana dispensaries.
We are that town now.
We are that town, and we have an ordinance. And the last town council had the guts to say no to it, and they put an ordinance in saying, no, we will not change the ordinance to accept marijuana, even though it was legalized at the time.
What makes you think that crime's going to go up? How do you know that?
Well,
you said it
I've
fairly definitively.
got articles all over the place that from different towns that have been smash and grab, and you see it on TV.
Yeah, but there was a smash and grab just recently at a jewelry store.
Well, sure.
But we have jewelry stores.
Well, yeah, we do.
So if the smash and grab is the problem, shouldn't we be then disallowing jewelry stores too?
They don't have credit cards. They have credit cards, and they have
But they also take
checks.
cash.
Well, yeah.
So
but
they could be counting money at the table as well.
Yeah, I know they could be.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
this is
anybody
a
can-
full cash operation.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
People know that.
Yeah.
They don't know how much a jewelry has in cash.
But there's a concern that they would be sort of reporting light on their proceeds or
Could
their
be.
earnings.
It could be, because who's going to monitor that and administer that?
I hadn't thought about that.
And there's expense from the town, from our town, that there's more police needed, and there's more, they're going to have to watch out for what's going on with people coming in, and more traffic. That's basically.
Do the police have is it sort of a disproportionate amount of time that the police put into policing liquor stores now?
I don't know that, but maybe.
Okay.
But this is a gateway drug as well. So is alcohol.
So is alcohol.
We've never denied that.
Yeah. I just wonder if there are more calls into liquor stores currently. Like, could we look to that as one possible metric?
There are a lot of liquor stores in Los Gatos.
And are they the ones getting calls, right? Are the cops going to them disproportionately than they are going to, say, a restaurant or a private residence?
We did ask for a review from the police chief, and our town manager directed that study from our police chief, Fields.
Did that study get done?
I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Were they receptive to the idea?
She was. The town manager said yes, she would make
Laurel
sure.
Pravati?
Yes, she did,
Yeah.
which we were very grateful for.
Am I allowed to say her name?
Laurel Pravetti.
Pravetti, excuse me.
Her name.
But I can. I mean,
Yes.
she's the town manager.
She is.
Right. Okay. I'm looking to you for compliance.
And we've met with all of the town council members, the police chief, the town manager, all except for one. We have one more.
The mayor.
The mayor. We've met with everyone.
You guys have the benefit of being highly organized and having a lot of experience on your side.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, including Lisa's. I mean, I'm grateful
Gosh,
for
no,
Lisa.
Joanne's got all the
I
experience.
have a little bit more philosophical question, something you mentioned earlier, which was about CASA and when you first started it. And you used the word prevention. And prevention, to me, sometimes it's like, are we actually, yes, we're trying to prevent youth from, using drugs and alcohol before they're 21 years old. But was there a educational component in CASA as well at the time, or have we evolved?
I'll give you the mission statement as we wrote it.
Cool.
It was to change the attitudes towards drug and alcohol use through student education, parent networking, peers helping peers, and positive alternative activities. And we fit a lot of things under that, including safe rides, and we had a fashion show with 100 students in it as a positive alternative activity, kids that had never been on the stage before. And, we had training from a model, and it was really fun. It was lots of fun. We had a great time. And we had something called a gym jam, and we competed with other communities, and we got as many people into the gym, and they would count their numbers and we'd count ours, and we'd see who won.
Pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, yes. But it was fun. We did things like that. And then we had peers helping peers. They learned to counsel other peers, other friends, and learn how to help them through difficult situations. And then the parent networking, we would always have a directory with all of the names of the parents and the kids, and we put that together and gave it out to all parents. I'm sure you had your parents got one.
God knows.
So you're mostly, Joanne, you're mostly worried about the youth when it comes to this.
Absolutely.
But let me ask you this: if we agree
Absolutely.
that pot and alcohol are both gateway drugs, is the model also inclusive of alcohol? I mean, do the parents in CASA drink?
Well, yes, but as Lisa has said,
Do they buy their alcohol here in Los
go
Gatos?
ahead, Lisa. You say.
So this is my philosophy. I think the difference between alcohol and marijuana is that you can drink alcohol and you can have a glass of wine or a glass of beer or whatever without actually getting high or getting, an altered state or sense. But with marijuana, because of the THC, when you smoke it, your gummies, all the other options that you can do, it makes you high. And I think that's the big difference, is that you can enjoy a great glass of wine or a great glass of beer.
Wait, you're saying you can enjoy a glass of wine and not get high? Is that what I mean? Is that what you're telling me?
You can most people can have a glass of wine without getting drunk.
So,
right?
I've got some young people over here.
What
You guys
are
are cool.
drinking?
You can drink. You can have drinks and not get stoned. All right, you guys are good. I mean,
No,
that's the message. But
I do
that's
not-
kind of
that
the
is
message.
not
You
the
can have a
message.
glass of
That's
wine and
not
not
the
get
message.
high.
I actually think
that's
that-
why we drink. We
I think-
drink to feel more
I don't.
loose. And
Well, I think
why
that-
do you drink?
I think
it gives a taste. I like the taste of
Yeah.
white wine, but also.
But then, what do you say to somebody who likes the taste of marijuana? Oh yeah, that tastes good.
well, that's what. That's a personal preference. That's okay.
But
Yeah.
then it seems like a double standard to me.
I don't think so, because
Okay.
the difference is, like I said, you can have a glass of wine and not get high or not get drunk.
Okay.
And we're not.
But
we're
you
not.
haven't ever used pot.
That is true.
Yeah, okay.
But I have talked to a lot of people who do smoke it, and
Yeah.
I've learned all about all the different strains
Fair enough.
and how the manufacturing and the THC potency, and that's been modified.
If I had a drink, honestly, I haven't had a drink in years. If I had a drink, I'd be so smashed. One drink, I'd be smashed.
Well, I think
And is that why you would drink it, to get smashed? I think that's
I
your
think
point.
I would drink it to be sociable. I think I would be in
Okay.
there just to enjoy that glass of wine with Lisa, so I feel like part of.
Well,
And so I don't drink it because I just don't have a good reaction
and
to it.
I can go a whole night at a party and have one glass of wine. I'm not a big drinker either, but again, it's more of a personal preference. It's just, for me, it's just all right.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into PodCats. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen or watch. I'm down here at the Hardcore Barber in Los Gatos, and just want to take a second to give a shout out to our sponsors and our supporters. First of all, I want to say thank you to KCAT for having us down, for recording the show, for helping us with all the technical stuff. KCAT has been absolutely amazing. Secondly, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has been a huge supporter. They've also sponsored the show, and so we want to just tell you that they're doing an amazing job. If you're not involved with the Chamber, you should be. Thirdly, I want to say thank you to Brian and Dan Real Estate. Brian and Dan, Silicon Valley Real Estate. Dan has been a huge fan of PodCats, and we're also sponsoring the show. And lastly, then, the brokerage that we work for, which is Christie's International Real Estate Sereno, formerly known as Sereno Group, has been a massive sponsor. Everybody should be using Sereno. Christie's International Sereno, the best brokerage here in Los Gatos, bar none. Thank you again for tuning in. We really appreciate it. And now we're going to get you back to the show.
I think, though, if we go back to talking about the youth, and I have had 3 kids go through the high school here, I think when they had that glass of wine, which they really didn't drink wine, they weren't that sophisticated,
Right.
but let's say they had
Beer.
4 shots of vodka, their whole intention of doing that was the same reason as smoking.
Absolutely.
They did it to get high.
That is true.
I have a few things to say about that, though.
Yes.
Okay, so marijuana and alcohol, we agree, are both gateway drugs.
Yeah.
Marijuana stays in your system for months.
Oh.
One smoke with THC. I'm not talking about the CBD that you rub on your body or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the marijuana with the THC, which
the
is
psychoactive component
that's right.
of marijuana
Yes,
that gets you
it
high.
stays in your body, and the more you consume it, it builds up in your body. It goes into your brain cells, in your reproductive cells, in the places where there's fat. It ends up there, and they've done studies, and I mean, if you're trying to get off of marijuana, let's say, and it takes you months to get rid of it out of your body. So there's a difference there. Whereas alcohol is water soluble. I'm not saying that either one of them are not gateway drugs. They're both gateway drugs. They both lead to other things. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention on this is with the youth. Our youth have put together a new ordinance that has made it tougher for drinking and alcohol to be consumed in a home, where there's kids involved. They have talked about vaping, and vaping is they're against the vaping. That I think one of our town council members' daughters was involved with making sure that vaping was not allowed anymore. Smoking, we used to have right outside the door here smokers. That's not allowed anymore either.
No, thank goodness.
So here we have youth that are telling us they don't want these things, and here we adults are saying, oh, well, let's add some dispensaries to our town. It makes no sense. We're supposed to be the adults in the room and the parents, and our kids are telling us, come on, let's get real and get rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
Or limit the stuff. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So how do you answer that, Brian?
I don't have a great answer for that. And
Okay.
interestingly, I agree with you, because we went out on the streets for that video and we chatted with people and we talked to some young people, and of course we were sort of profiling, and we talked to some young people and said, oh, these guys are going to be for sure pro. And a lot of the young people we talked to were anti. They did not want a marijuana shop open here in Los Gatos.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think there's a potential movement among young people, and I don't know. I mean, I have a 17-year-old and a 20-year-old, and they're not really into smoking weed, but I don't know. I'm not that in touch with the young culture that I would know one way or the other. And that's part of the reason I want to have this conversation, right? So we can bear that out.
The other thing I would just want to mention, this is kind of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And this may be, people may say, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. But we have a friend who has a ranch down near Santa Barbara, and the marijuana growers are trying to buy the ranch. They have bought the ranches all around them. These people are growing our food. They're providing things for us to eat. We're the basket of the USA, mainly.
Right.
We
Like
cannot-
80% of the produce is produced here in California.
We cannot eat marijuana. I mean, you can have a gummy, I guess.
Well, you can
but
have
you know
marijuana
what?
brownies.
That's a bigger picture thing, and I realize that that's sort of way out there, but it's true, and we have to look at that. And then I read this book on the hidden war of
I
what?
want to see the one on top, Toma.
This one. Did you remember Toma?
Well, this is why we met. This is
Did
the guy.
you remember Toma?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
He
Oh,
came to the
yes.
school. This is
I'm
the
so
this is the
glad.
guy that led me and
Okay.
Joanne to meet.
Okay,
Yeah,
Brian.
yeah.
Okay, do you remember?
He was a cop.
Yes, he was.
And he had a drug addiction to pills, I think, some kind of pills. I don't even know what, but
he lost his son and
Yeah.
got addicted to pills.
yeah.
And so he could speak, and he was a marijuana cop. He dressed up like Columbo or something, and he would go out on the street, and he saw what marijuana did to kids. He was all into kids. It was all about kids.
And what community was he from? Where did he?
New Jersey.
From New Jersey.
Yeah, and we raised money to bring him.
Yeah.
This was one of the first things that CASA did. And we had, for the first time, they filled the gym with all the kids. It had been years before they'd ever got them all together. But remember that we sat on the floor.
Yeah.
And we listened to the guy, and he also spoke at Fisher. And he was dynamite.
Yeah.
And and then we made sure that afterwards there were places for the students to go to their home rooms and talk to a counselor if they needed to.
But has
So-
anything like that been done in recent years?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I interrupted you. You were going to show me a
Yeah,
different book.
well, this one is The Hidden War on Marijuana.
Okay.
And this guy was actually getting rid of the drug lords in the Sierra Nazul Trail and up in the hills there and all over California. And he's the one that says that the black market will not disappear. Given the relatively high overhead and operating costs of cannabis dispensaries and taxable income generated from recreational and medicinal cannabis sales, the price of legal pot increased substantially. So you've got the federal taxes, you've got the state taxes, and you've got the local taxes. And he says the black market cannabis growers will never pay sales and property tax, and sometimes they're not even growing it on their own land. You will never get rid of the black market illegal drugs in this state or this country, probably.
I mean, it's an easy plant to grow, and
Yep.
I think dealing it on the black market is probably pretty easy. I mean, if you live in a community where people know that you have the good stuff, they'll just as soon come to you if they trust you. But I believe, and again, we'll hear from Chris Lane in a minute, I believe there's a whole new customer base that doesn't want to go buy it on the black market. They want to walk in like they're walking into CVS and get it in a way that is much more legitimate.
And I understand that for street safety. I mean, I do understand that. We have lost so many people in the last few years because of COVID and depression and stress and anxiety and fentanyl overdoses. So, I do see the value of dispensaries. I absolutely do. But, some of the problem is that with the dispensaries is that they can modify the THC in it. And I got this from National Institute of Health, the NIH, and it said that potency has doubled over the last 4 decades. So this is not the pot that, you've smoked or your parents smoked back in the day. And that Colorado THC in the state of Colorado ranges from 28 to 32%. Legislators wanted to limit it to 16%. But the legislators failed because the local market wanted stronger products. And I think that's where the concern gets, is that these are modified products and they're getting stronger and stronger and more potent.
So I am going to challenge you there for just a sec.
Sure.
And the challenge is, you just mentioned, about having that glass of wine and enjoying that glass of wine. Is there not something that equates to that of people who are getting high, people who choose to get high as their way to relax? They know that marijuana is stronger now. So whereas maybe before they would have done, taken 5 hits or 3 gummies. I mean, my friends who do use these products, they know now I'm only taking a half because that gets me to that relaxation
Which
point.
is
So
equal to 1 or 2 glasses of wine or whatever. I mean, if we could make that equation. But then there's some people out there drinking 191 proof rum.
Yeah, who
Right?
also might
I
be
mean,
taking 3 or 4
going-
gummies.
they're going for
right?
the hard stuff,
So
right?
again, that's where the education piece to me is so important.
Right.
And I think my perspective is different because I can have, like I said, have a glass of wine, enjoy the flavor. And that is not my intent to get drunk, to loosen up. I don't need to loosen my inhibitions. But I'm as outgoing as I need to be. Could you imagine me on something else? Oh my gosh, no.
I can't imagine you on anything else.
No, you don't want to.
No.
Hence the reason he hasn't had a drink in a couple of years.
Exactly.
So here's a friend of mine who lost her son, and she's a Colorado person, and they moved to Colorado, and while he was in high school, and she lost him.
To what was how,
Marijuana.
meaning that he smoked too much and died?
Yes, he got depressed. Made him depressed.
Well, I hear that, and I, of course, can't speak ill of somebody who lost their child. That's the most unimaginable thing that could ever happen. But couldn't he have been depressed and been using marijuana as a self-medicating device to help him feel better? And the
There's
depression
the whole
was present
story.
regardless?
You have to read the story. You'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that it wasn't.
But
That wasn't
I know
the case.
that people use drugs and alcohol to try and solve for a mental
Absolutely.
problem
To
that they
cope.
don't know how
Yeah.
to solve.
Yeah.
Especially young people, because
Yeah.
they don't have the means to be able to go to a
Yeah.
parent or somebody and say, I don't feel right.
Yeah.
I feel depressed. They don't talk to us. They can't. They don't have the vocabulary, excuse me. But and so they just go out and pot makes them feel kind of better, or alcohol.
Okay, well, I can tell you that it gets stuck in the brain of an underdeveloped brain. It stays there. You many times lose your motivation. You want to, you start going downhill with it.
Yeah.
You build it up in your body, and young people are not fully developed in their brains. That's why we have the 21-year-old limit or beginning of allowing alcohol and I guess marijuana too.
We do have to switch the conversation a little bit here because we are focusing on the youth, though, and really having a marijuana dispensary in town was not at all intended for the youth, right? It really was for the adults that are in town and for to be convenient and yes,
But a big part of the argument is that we don't want it because it's going to somehow
affect our youth.
affect the youth. I think that's a big part of the argument. That's the part. I don't know if that's your argument. I'm not
It's
putting
part of
words
it.
into your mouth. Yeah.
It's part of it, and part of it is saying, okay, to the youth, all right, gee, it must be okay to smoke pot because we're allowing it in town. Why not? And Lisa has a story about the licenses and the IDs that are available.
Oh God, yes, that's good.
Yes.
Well, and let me just put that in context for a second. One of the arguments is that there's a 21-year-old requirement to be in the dispensary, and you have to be able to use an ID to get in, and we've heard this from more than just you guys. Well, then they just get a fake ID and they go in and they get their pot, no matter how old they are. They get a fake ID and they go in and use their fake ID. Yeah. I ran this past Chris Lane from Airfield, and he said that's impossible. I talked to you about it, and you said, no, it's incredibly possible.
Chris, are you out there?
So I don't know what the real story is. Like, I don't have a fake ID. I don't know anything about them. I hear they're very sophisticated.
They're incredibly sophisticated. And yes, I do know that at Airfield and Kaliva, they have, I like to call them the bouncers at the door. They've got the guy out there, and he's checking the ID. That's the first line of defense. So then you're standing in line like a nightclub getting your ID checked. Then you get in the door, and then at the register, before they allow you to go in, they check you in again. They take your ID, they swipe it. But guess what? Those fake IDs do swipe, they do work, and I do know young adults under 21 who have used their fake IDs at, wait for it, Airfield and Kaliva. Sorry, people, but I'm not going to disclose who they are because I know.
Of course not. Please don't.
I know a lot.
I want to keep this show going. Next thing you know, the cops are at the door.
I know a lot of young adults, and so in chatting with the young adults that are coming and going, and have a lot of conversations about this in the last many months.
Yeah.
And tell me, what's the word on the street about the fake IDs? Oh, they're really good. I get them from China. That was one of the places. They're good. They work. And they're scannable.
I want to take PodCats on the road and go out and get a fake ID and see if we can do this. Honestly, I'd love to take that and see if it worked. I really want to test this out. I want to see if it's true. I'm sure that these guys want to know it too. Actually, if they're getting phony IDs that are working, they actually want to know.
I don't know how they can tell. I don't know, because all I know is the computer scans it, and if the computer scans it, and if the person looks like they're close enough to 21, I'm sure they let them in. So, and I'm not saying that those businesses are negligent, because I think they're doing their job. They are doing their job. They're doing the best that they can. They've got a 2-line of defense. So
and they don't want to lose their license.
Exactly.
It's their license to earn. They've got to keep their license. They're not doing. I know that bars let underage people in too from time to time. I'm sure with fake IDs.
With the fake IDs that
it's
work.
It's not their intention.
Right. So, but it has gotten more sophisticated.
Yeah.
I have some funny stories about fake IDs, but
from like 30 years ago.
Oh no, home security at my front door, because my kids all tried to get fake IDs, but home security stopped coming into the U.S.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, this
like
is
Homeland
federal.
Security.
Homeland Security.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Homeland Security.
Here's the other thing, and I'm just thinking of this now. This wasn't on my list of questions, but what about home delivery? Right? Like, how do you circumnavigate that?
Well, you don't, but you don't need a dispensary in town because it's 50 minutes away from Los Gatos, down the center of Los Gatos. You can get marijuana 15 minutes away from here. Also, you can get it delivered within an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do
really?
deliver.
Within an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do deliver
And-
it.
Man, we should have ordered some weed delivered here for this show.
And I think, I could be wrong, and Chris can probably tell you, I think they scan your ID when they deliver it. Because I'm full disclosure here, I have had to have that delivered for our family member who was not doing well. So
I didn't have to have it. I actually did order some recently just because I kind of wanted to test it out. And a van pulled up in front of the Chamber of Commerce.
Did it have a
They
big
came
logo
in.
on the side?
They had a huge box. They brought it in and they said,
Huge box?
Wait. And they said, "Are you Catherine?" I said, "Yes, I am." And they
Did
dropped
the guy
it
have
in
like a big doobie? So like a big old doink
I
sticking
just
out
had
of
to
his
sign.
mouth?
They didn't actually ask for my didn't ask for my ID or anything at all. I mean,
they
clearly I
didn't.
looked over 21, I guess.
Maybe
but-
that's why.
Yeah.
I know.
I was laughing.
But
I mean,
it
my
is
whole
interesting,
staff was laughing.
because I know a ton of people now who are taking CBD, especially for sleep.
Right.
It seems like a real thing.
But that doesn't have the THC, or if it does, it's
Right.
very small, like a 25
It's for different purposes.
CBD to 0.1 to the 1 THC. So that CBD is not the part that's not the cannabinoid that makes you high, and so that's why a lot of people are using the CBD products, which is fine.
I don't think necessarily we're here to talk about the moral
Right.
question of whether or not using marijuana is good or bad. I think it's about having a store here in Los Gatos. But I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh
Yeah.
darn.
Okay, I know.
And I
She
promised
has
you.
a lot
to
more to
talk
say.
about.
No, and I promised you that we can come back and do this again. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to let you know that we're nearing that moment, and so I want to give you your moment here. But we're getting to our half-hour mark, and we've got other people that we want to get on, and we don't want to bore our
Our
poor
listeners.
listeners. We don't want to bore my mom.
You
No.
know your mom's listening.
She will be. Yeah.
Over at the terraces, right? She'll be at the
Yeah,
terraces listening.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
she'll be leaning in like that. But anyway, so yeah, we're just getting a little bit short on time. So please.
Well, no, I just want to make my final comment is, and we know that federally this is still illegal, right?
Yes.
We know that it's still, and so far as Congress has determined, cannabis is dangerous. It's a dangerous drug, and actively, and the activity surrounding it is crime. And banks don't accept the cash from marijuana sales, so and it is a violation of federal money laundering statutes for financial institutes to take proceeds from this. So, it's not recognized as legal.
Yeah.
So, and cannabis, I when I spoke to one of the references on the HDL cannabis management service company that is doing our analysis of whether we want this here or not, one of the references said, the cannabis industry is very litigious. So expect that when you're going into this.
Yeah. I mean, along with a few other things in our country right
Absolutely.
now, it tends to,
Yes.
there's a lot of division surrounding
So
this.
I just thought I'd bring that up as well.
Yeah. Anything, Catherine, that you want to add before we...
No, but I do like that word division that you just brought up.
I hate that word.
Well, I like it in the sense that it is appropriate in this conversation because you really do. I mean, is having a pot dispensary in town going to be more divisive than it is unifying? And I actually hadn't really thought about that.
Well, the
It's like,
town.
do we want more division in this town? Is that going to cause
But you're
it?
not going to avoid it at this point because there are people who want it. I think that the division already exists, right? There's a camp that wants it. There's a camp that doesn't want it, and somewhere in the democratic process, it's going to get figured out. And
The camp that wants it can get it.
Yeah, true.
Right. They can
The
go 10
camp
minutes
that
down,
wants it
17.
can
And
get
this
it.
is the one thing we didn't touch on, which we'll touch on more with Chris, I'm guessing, is that I don't have somebody here from the town, but I think the town wants the revenue. I mean, I should imagine that the town wants
It's all
the
about
revenue.
money.
It's all about
But
money.
we all
It's
want
not
money.
about our kids.
There's a price to
But
pay
no,
for
the
everything.
kids benefit from money. There's
We
programs
don't
that are
know.
available to
We
well,
don't know that.
Are we going to have
we
rehab
don't know
programs?
that.
We're
Yeah.
going to need them.
We're going to need
Well,
rehab. Yes.
And there's been no breakdown from the town as to how those funds would be allocated. We haven't seen that yet.
I think Chris will fill us in a little bit on how
Because I
funds
don't
could
certainly
be
want to
allocated.
I don't want to get hoodwinked like we did with the lotto, where they said, "Oh, this is going to be a huge win for the schools," and you're like, "Our schools are crumbling."
Right. And I mentioned earlier, I mean, we pay big taxes on our gas and our roads and things like that.
And where's
Look at
that?
our roads. We were just in Tennessee. The roads are gorgeous.
No, so mismanagement of these funds is definitely a concern.
That is.
Right? I think.
Sure.
Yeah. So we wanted to have somebody from the town here, but I think that, and we kind of gently asked, but I don't think anybody from the town wants to be here making any declarative statements.
We found that
Rob's
out
here,
too.
and we're going to talk to him next.
No, we found that out.
Yeah.
We found that out.
They don't want to take a side.
No, they don't. And I don't want to be directing any accusations or anything, but these are people that could receive nice contributions to their campaigns too. So there's always a possibility.
Product. Like
Maybe
in-kind contributions.
You mean like the barter system?
Yeah. It'd be like, this is not in-kind, this is the-kind. Hey, you guys are awesome. I really can't thank you enough for being here. No, seriously, and I think we probably will do a follow-up. I hope that you guys would be willing to come back.
Definitely.
We would love to have you here again. I just really appreciate it because we do want to hear the sides of the stories and hopefully get some engagement in the town in a more accessible format. The town council meetings are a little rough sometimes because there's so much pomp and circumstance that comes along with it. And so we're going to, when we post this, hopefully we get some dialogue going, and then one day we want to run this show live. And like with call-in and stuff so that we could actually talk to people and have you here for a full hour next time.
Well, Lisa wants to be there.
I don't think so.
But I'm so glad that you remember Toma.
Oh gosh, it had a major impact on my life.
It did.
Did
You
it?
told me
Oh,
all
absolutely.
about it. Yeah. the other
I'm
day.
so glad.
It took a while,
Yes.
like decades.
Yeah.
But it did have a major impact.
And the other thing that had a major impact on one of the local doctors who's spoken to our council is the cars that we've had on the front lawn.
Oh yeah, I remember them. Oh God.
That have been crashed in and stuff. So
No, and the young people who died as a result of those crashes. It's just heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
No, I remember them being parked on the front lawn and just...
You remember that?
And we knew these kids.
I know.
We knew the people that died. They were amongst us the day before.
Yes.
And so it really did, it really was a great symbol, I thought, to kind of bring that home. Because you hear about somebody dying and they're not there anymore, but when you see that car that's completely mutilated, it really kind of, you're like, oh, my friend was in that car.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, we gotta cut this off.
Well, and I want you to reread this book.
Okay. I appreciate it.
I do.
Yeah,
Because I want you on my side.
We're gonna take a break here and we'll come right back.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. We are going to be back with the next episode in this series about talking about whether or not we should open a marijuana, or whether we should open marijuana dispensaries here in town. So go on to the next episode and listen to more chat about whether or not we should sell pot here in Los Gatos. What do you think?
Whether we should or not.
Yeah. You got an opinion?
I'm taking the fifth.
You're taking the fifth on
At this
that
point.
one.
I have to hear what people say.
All right.
Come together right now. Hit the ground running, ain't even a discussion. Hold up. Come together right now. Ain't no time for sleep. All we gotta do is come together.